Hello everybody and welcome back to Philadelphia, where I bring you breaking news in the form of a disaster which has happened. A bus driver on the Few Haven to Gaudy Bay line has, well, crashed into an electronics shop and seemingly knocked over 3 pedestrians, whilst the other buses continue to operate as normal and pedestrians continue to not help those poor individuals playing plank on the floor. So yeah, drama in Philadelphia as we start today's episode. Not sure if anyone is actually coming to recover the scene of the accident here. Time will tell. So we have now completed the gap between Few Haven and Gaudy Bay. And there were some great suggestions for the names that we put towards the park area and to the castle, but I have decided to go with, firstly, Hoskins Castle for the castle. Just a huge another shout out to Bobby Hoskins for pointing out my clear ignorance towards the idea of sinking trees for undergrowth. So thank you, Bobby Hoskins. We've now got Hoskins Castle in there, and Advised Retreat suggested that, so big shout out to you as well. Thank you for that suggestion. And we've got Octagon Park, which was suggested by Ros Miller and Matteo. Thank you to both of you for that suggestion. Really like that. And another little shout out to Advised Retreat again, who also suggested this whole area be called Gaudy Gap, which I absolutely love. So I'm going to kind of think of it as Gaudy Gap from now on, because I think that makes sense. But within Gaudy Gap, we have got Octagon Park, Hoskins Castle, and of course, the Gaudy Bay Community Football Field as well. So yeah, there we go. So I did mention that in today's episode, we'd start off by looking at public transit and reworking that now that we have joined in this gaping hole between the two towns here. But actually, because we've still got more development to come over here for sure, and I want to work on this peninsula, which is what we're actually going to do today, I think I'm going to leave it until we've got some more of the infrastructure in here, because we're going to have trains. We've got a train line coming up here. We're going to have trains over there. So I want to put in sensible bus lines that are going to run throughout this whole area so that we can then move on and look at some other areas on this absolutely ginormous map. But for today, let's get this little peninsula done right here. So the plan is industry. There has actually been a patch between the last episode and this one, which has apparently de-aged senior citizens, which means our unemployment rate spiked. It was at 32, 33%. I've let the game run for a bit, so you can notice we're on quite a lot more funds here than we were last time to try and reduce this, but it's still kind of sticking at around 28, 29%, which is a little bit high for my liking. But given what we've already got in this area, where we've got this industrial area we actually did in episode 1, my goodness, and the ore mine over this side, I think finishing it off with a little bit more industry around this bend would be appropriate. We've got the dirty air flowing over this way, so from a pollution point of view, this section at least wouldn't be particularly favourable land. I think what I might do over here though is use this semi-flat area here to create a very small little housing development. Maybe it could be a retirement village or something like that, I'm thinking. A kind of gated community of sorts, just a small one in this area. But going back to industry-wise, on the hills, what I want to do is add in forestry, and then also some additional industrial buildings as we flow down the coast here, kind of expanding on this estate as we go around this way. But the reason for that is I was having a little look at productions, and I know a few of you asked to see the city stats after the last episode. I haven't showed them for a few, so here we go. We're making a decent amount of money. We're making, well, 37,000 an hour at the moment, actually. We still obviously don't have any loans. I've never had one, and I'm never going to take one in Philadelphia. Hopefully that won't be needed. Our tax rates are set on 7% for residential and 9% for all others. I actually reduced that a little bit when I built FewCandy, just to make sure we had enough residential demand. And to be honest, with the amount of money we're making, I'm kind of happy to leave it there. We've got full demand for everything, which is always nice to have. And then services-wide, our road budget is still on 50%, but we're bringing in loads of money from our electricity exporting nonetheless. Water is down at 80% just because we've got enough capacity, so I'll build that back up as and when we need to increase the capacity at the moment. Health and death care, 100. I think everything else should be at 100%. Oh, transportation's at 70 just because we don't need the extra vehicles right now. Parks and recreation's still on 50. I feel like that probably should be a bit higher. The efficiency affects how many park maintenance vehicles currently in use. We don't have a park maintenance depot yet, but also affects the attractiveness value of the building. So maybe we do rank this back up to 100. We'll see what impact that has. I mean, if that's only 5,000 an hour, I'll be happy with that. And then communications also at 100%. But in productions, this is where I was focusing on. We are yet to put in any forestry industry, we're yet to put in any kind of stone mining other than the basic stone quarry, so we haven't got ores, we haven't got coal, we also haven't got oil in yet as well. Coal actually has the biggest deficit we can see here, but I don't think I really want a whole massive coal mine on this end of the land, so I think we're going to skip that and we're going to focus on forestry for the moment. And then when we come down here and have a look at our surplus and deficits and different things, there's still food which remains the problem, which is really frustrating because we do have the dairy house in, we've got a whole load of farms. I mean, you can see in the production surplus up here, we're making plenty of everything, but we're just not getting in food factories by all accounts. Same with textile factories as well. But also you can see down here, so timber and furniture are very low indeed. I mean, there's not much furniture production whatsoever, but timber, we are at a deficit here, so I think it is time to get in some forestry. So let's just put in the road network to start off with. So I'm just going to grab the basic road here and kind of follow it along the coast a little bit. So I think we'll go straight there just for a section so that we can add in some more sensible buildings around that. And then we'll start to curve around here and follow some of these contour lines as best we can around the coast this way. So I'm thinking what I'll do with this area here is just create small little pockets of factories and warehouses just along the road. Nothing too much like here where it's a bit steeper up the hill. We'll leave that bit as just forested area, maybe part of the actual forestry plantation. We might even have one of the logging camps up on this semi-flat bit on the hillside here, or we'll make use of that for another factory potentially. But we'll keep the industry going, maybe mix in a couple of offices here and there as well. And then we want to finish up in a kind of culmination of some larger industry, I think, for this point. This is quite a prominent place in the city. You can see the little views out over Few Haven and onto Gaudy Bay there, and it just, I love this view. I absolutely love this view. But it's also going to look out over towards the downtown and the bigger city out that side, whatever's going to be on this peninsula here too. I don't want it to be too extremely dirty industry, so that's why I'm thinking where we've got the forestry industries dotted across this hillside, maybe we bring in a large lumber yard at this end of it. Maybe with some slight pockets of larger machinery is what I'm thinking here. And for that, I think we might use an actual unique factory. So I am just going to flatten off this sort of bottom section of this point here so that we've got a little bit more usable land to play with. We'll also go ahead and remove all of these trees. Now, of course, before I place the forestry, I'm going to be putting in a whole load more trees, so that will come with time. But with the factory, the one that I would like to use is ground earth. And now the reason for this is because this takes stone and makes minerals, I think, as far as I'm aware. If we go back to the production tab, we've got a huge surplus in stone from our big stone quarry. So I'm not too worried about the supply on this. Minerals, we've also got a massive surplus of it as well. But having a unique factory in here is going to help us bring in jobs. So that's going to lower our... Well, she's down to 23% now, which is not too bad. But it is going to help to reduce that a little bit. And it doesn't cost us anything to place it in. So I think let's go ahead and do this. And this will give us that slightly larger pop of kind of industrial height, I suppose, on this little peninsula here. And then we can surround it with a huge lumber yard out this side, is my thought for this. So what we'll do at this point is we'll bring out a alleyway road, and I think we'll probably add a parking lot or something to that effect down that side. And then we're going to bring it out into a really big lumber yard over here. And for some reason I've switched back to the pedestrian road. Let's change that up. So if we're going to find it and search for forestry, we've got these large storage forestry things. And this is where the lumber spawns in when you have got a surplus essentially and stores it for elsewhere in the city. So this is what I think would be really nice to have down here. And I'm actually going to go fairly OTT with it, to be honest. And we're going to have 4 of these in, like this, which I think is okay on the surface there. Yeah, it's just about okay. I think in combination with this factory as well, it will look kind of interesting. But we'll also, of course, want to add in some additional kind of industrial decorative elements to it. I'll definitely want to remove a lot of these fences around here to make it feel a little bit more like one yard rather than multiple yards. And then we can add in some prop lumber piles and things like that around it as well. So for starters, let's just go into Better Bulldozer and we'll trim off all of these fences. So that'll give us this nice open feel. And I think I am going to upgrade this whole section into gravel road here as well. So I think that'll flow through this texture a little bit better. Of course, I'm probably going to cover it in decals as well, but there we go. And then this can run on into the various different forestry lumber areas as we see fit up here. Of course, we can also come in and use, as I mentioned, some of these industrial props for it. We can find ones that might make sense to forestry, then I'd be happy to use them. But a lot of these are kind of tankers and almost oil-like or drilling-like, which I'm not entirely sure would necessarily go with forestry industry. So we'll need to be a little bit careful with that. I think we could get away with some of them and having a bit of extra height in here. Maybe we actually add in some smaller industrial buildings and try and blend them in as part of the yard. An office or two would go nicely here as well. So let's actually just experiment with that just for a second. So if we bring up this gravel road a little bit further and take a look at some of our offices. So we do have smaller buildings like this that could definitely be suitable for the lumber yard, just a little place for workers to go, that sort of thing. I'm wondering if actually it would be more appropriate to have this on the entrance into the actual area. So let's just grab move it, and we're going to shift this one round and move it back this way just a little bit like that, and then we'll see if we can fit in some form of office into this corner here, along with maybe extending the car park out this side too, because we've already got the tarmac there, so I think that might make a nice bit of sense for there. And then we can expand the lumberyard around that a little bit later. If we just take a very quick look at industry as well, of what we could potentially have in here. I'm kind of in a way imagining this to be like some form of small paper factory. We do of course have an actual paper factory, but it's fairly big. I don't think it would sit here that well, so we're going to ignore that. We're not going to put in the actual paper factory. But it's kind of a shame we don't have any smaller sort of sawmills or that sort of thing. This one might work reasonably nicely actually for it. So we could, yeah, why not? It's actually got planks out the front already, does it? So let's incorporate that into it, and we'll obviously need a lot of detailing to make that feel part of the actual complex, but hopefully that kind of is starting to make a little bit of sense. And then hopefully as well, once we get all of our forestry plantations in, we'll start to see these actually fill up with lumber, but time will tell. So before we move on, let's just take a quick little look at ground earth that we have here. So there is a business in there. Yeah, it is requiring stone and making minerals. The network quality apparently isn't good enough. Well, there we go. A plain road is not good enough for ground earth. But what has that done to our production status? So yeah, we've barely even eaten into that stone that we have there actually. Not too bad at all. And we're just at an even more of a giant surplus when it comes to the minerals now. But hopefully we can sort of export that and maybe it'll help. The benefit it gives us is 2% industrial efficiency citywide and 10% on ore deposits. Now, we haven't actually utilised any ore deposits because the stone mine doesn't need an ore deposit in order to function, so that won't be coming into effect just yet, but will absolutely further down the line. Let's move on to our very small little gated residential community that we're going to be putting in this very tiny little flat area over here. Now, I was wondering the best way to connect this up, and I think unfortunately it probably is a crossroads at this point. I was debating whether we could have a road coming underneath the bridge this side to make it a little bit more interesting, but I think the slope down is probably going to absolutely murder it. And I have no idea what has happened to our road here, so let's go ahead and just try and fix this up quickly. Okay, that's better. So this is going to be quite a high traffic busy road in the long run, because this is the main alternative to our highway, which will take people from this area of Fewhaven and Gaudy Bay into the main downtown, because this road is going to be a slightly shorter distance as well. We get our contour lines back on for a second. It's going to probably curve somewhere, I think tunnel through here and then curve up through the tiny gap that we have at this point, and then on round into the downtown, whereas the highway, there's going to be an intersection around about here, which is going to take them on through to the downtown that way. So it's going to be a slightly shorter distance and an alternative route for people to take, but it is a main busy road. So it's not ideal to have a crossroads here, but considering we're coming down into what is going to be a very small residential neighbourhood, I don't see it as being too much of a problem. So we're just going to flow it down the hill like that, and I think we'll give it a nice grass border down here, like it's well maintained and well manicured. And then we're going to get the alleyway road with pavement, just so it's that tiny little bit narrower, a little bit more discreet in terms of the road markings as well as we come on into the development. I think we're going to start with essentially a main office here with a car park. So let's actually go back to straight roads like that. So that we'll have a little welcome centre at this point. So let's go ahead and see what we can find. I think something pretty simple like that would actually do perfectly. So let's go ahead and place that in here, and we'll put in a very small car park next to it. I'm thinking probably just a ploppable one at this stage for visitors. We could go for this one, which has a nice little feel to it, and then we can reshape the terrain around it as well. A little bit more manicured with the hedges already on it, so I think that's a nice suitable vibe for our residential development here. And the reason why I'm doing this before the forestry is because I want to really put the forestry in quite tight around the developments we'll have in this area, so that we can make the most of the space and make the most of the resources that we have within there. And then from this point we'll go straight on in, and what I would like to have is some kind of centerpiece around here. I'm actually thinking maybe let's use the pedestrian roads for this. We could potentially use the one-way system maybe, so let's upgrade. We want just this tiny section here, so let's go back in and draw ourselves a little marker like that. And then we're going to grab the pedestrian street here, and then we could use the one-way system, I think, to go around the complex. So I think that will make it a little bit more cozy and feel like it's actually some kind of elderly residential neighbourhood as opposed to, you know, a modern family housing development if it's all walkable around the entire estate. So let's bring this out, and yeah, like I mentioned, I think I want some kind of centre park type area or recreational area or gathering space for people in the neighbourhood here. So just having a think about what small parks we have, we could pack in a few of these little 4x4 square parks. We could do something a bit more fancy with a fountain. I'm thinking maybe something like that would be quite nice. Potentially with a small kind of manicured fake duck pond next to it, seeing as we're into that at the moment. So let's just flatten it off a tiny bit more, reclaim, shall I say, a tiny bit more of this land here so that we've got a little bit more area to work with our development, and we'll make a little bit steeper around the edge there too. And then let's go back into our road network. So we need to be a little bit careful with this if we're doing a one-way system to make sure everyone is actually connected in. So I think if we come out like that, and then we take a little look at the assets that we're going to be using. So what I would like to use for this is actually all very similar, very samey assets. And we're going to go for 2 wide EU residential units like this one, for example. So it will look almost a little bit kind of holiday park-like, actually, in my opinion. But I think these are kind of cozy, they're small, they're bungalows, so it makes sense if it is an elderly type of community here. So I think that this will fit in pretty well. So we're just going to start placing these around in different sections. See, like here, I think we could have a road that comes up and out to support more development that side. And we could have a road that wraps around this side as well. So let's just paste these in. And then we'll wrap a little bit more road around it so we could expand it a little bit further. Something like that is what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if maybe we should have a little medical facility on the corner here, because we do obviously have the small one now, so we could absolutely afford to put this in, and maybe that would be a nice touch. So yeah, why not? Let's go ahead and do that. And I have also been round actually replacing some of our existing service buildings. We just flick back into Philadelphia quickly. You can see here we do now have the service car parks on it. So if you've already placed buildings down before that update that we had a few weeks or a month or a little while ago, you can actually just go to relocate here. It's going to cost you a little bit of money and then put it back down in the same spot and it will respawn with those buildings rather than deleting and replacing entire assets. So that can be useful. So we do now have that in. We had a few buses parking here at some stage, but they've all now disappeared. But yes, I have slowly gone round and updated all of our existing service buildings. So we do now get the service vehicle parking, which is wonderful. Okay, so quite a bit of tidying up to do in here, but one thing I would just like to do before we do that is actually add in a district policy, which we haven't done yet for the entirety of Philadelphia so far. So we're just going to create this very small little district over our retirement village here, like that. Hamilton Glen, lovely name. I'm actually going to call it Haven Village because that feels quite nice, although it does sound like a holiday park in the UK. There is a brand of holiday parks called Haven in the UK, so yeah, kind of similar to that. But I'm going for more retirement village than holiday park because there aren't the recreational facilities to support young children in this space, definitely. But within this, yeah, we can see these different district policies that we do have here. So what I would like to add is speed bumps. I mean, why not? Reduces the noise pollution and the speed of vehicles driving through the district, yes. But most importantly, gated community. So only people living or working within the district are allowed in. This increases the well-being of its residents and reduces crime in the area. Does not affect city services. So I definitely think that that would be a nice one to have in this little space so that no cars are allowed in unless they're actually working or living here. It may restrict the benefits of this actual small medical clinic that we have here. So we'll see about whether we want to keep that or not. You can let me know what you think in the comments below. Is it just wasted sitting here at Haven Village? Or is it a nice little touch for our retirement homes? So a whole ton of detailing to do around this, but I do kind of like the vibe that these small little houses have. Like, they all have a little bit of outdoor space. They're all bungalows, so easily accessible for elderly people. They've all kind of got their own little space, their own little patio backyard area, but it's all very open and enclosed and kind of encourages that feel of community is what I'd quite like in here. I do need to straighten out some of these lumpies and bumpies in the roads, but that's okay. And we need to do some more design around our central kind of recreational community area here. And we've of course got residents now moving in. I'm hoping that you actually live in this space, people, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. I'm not sure why you're driving up my pedestrian street, that's the other question, but yeah, there we go. There we go. Of course they can park in their driveways. Yeah. I think that's okay. We're still going for low-key streets here, so I'm going to choose to look away from that small factor, I think, for now. Okay, so we've got the shape of that in at least. We've got the rough shape of the lumber yard. Obviously, we still want to put in our pockets of industry over here, but I think we can actually go ahead and get in our forestry areas now and shape those. We'll leave it a bit of space around this side in particular for that industry. I don't think I'm going to have a road that actually joins across this side of the hillside. I think I am going to funnel people through this main industrial coastal road down this side. It might be I add a small gravel track maybe to connect some of the lumber industries to each other, and that could therefore connect into the back of the lumber yard, which might make sense. But I probably almost want that to have the gated community policy as well, so that it only is people who are working in that area that's able to drive through it, as opposed to just everyday traffic. I mean, it should only really be people who are working or needing to access this area that would use it anyway, but you never know in this game. You never know. So first things first is trees. Now I want absolutely tons of trees in here, and what I'm looking for is actually pine, but I'm also going to mix in spruce, which is kind of the natural fauna that came with this map. But the pine trees are absolutely the best one for forestry industry, because you can see here a fully grown one will give you 3,000 wood, whereas a fully grown spruce, as far as I'm aware, will only give you up to 2,000. So pine is the best that you can have, or a fully grown pine at least, for wood production. So I'm going to start off by getting a pine brush at a very high strength, and we're basically just going to absolutely destroy our landscape over here by putting in a massive dense forest, just so that we've got all of those resources in place before we put in our forestry areas. Now I'm also conscious actually, I'm putting in mature. We probably don't want elderly. I want some young in here as well, because I don't want them to all kind of grow and die at the same rate, because I'm pretty sure even with tree anarchy, if they're within the forestry area, they're still obviously subject to having regrowth essentially on. So let's mix in some young with some mature trees, and we'll bring it right down here. We can tidy up a lot of this afterwards or as we go through. But let's just fill this all with pines first, and then we'll go ahead and add in some spruces into the mix as well. Okay, so I think we spent about $500,000 on trees here, but I think it's pretty safe to say that we have some strong natural resources for what we need. So I'm actually going to start at this end and find a suitable place to put the entrance into our first forest yard. So let's grab our gravel roads. I think they're definitely the nicest for this sort of forestry industry, particularly where these are lumber camps. They're not really kind of massive forest yards, which is what I'm hoping to achieve kind of down the bottom over that side. So let's have a road that comes out of this junction. And we want to kind of put it roughly in the middle of the area to make use of the available space. So let's come straight out of there for a little bit. Let's turn Anarchy off just so we can clear out the trees as we go with the road here. And then let's maybe bring it off into a little section over here. So something like that. And turning off Anarchy has not worked, so we are going to have to go through and individually delete all of these trees. Wonderful, but that's okay. So then let's come into our industry, we'll grab forestry, and let's put in our first yard here. Now, if we just take a little look at the circle, yeah, it's going to bring us almost up to the edge of Haven Village over there, and will take us right around the edge of the ore mine as well. So I think that that is a pretty good place for it. Now, I haven't got it right up to the road here because I would like to add in some more oaks. There's a bit of a border, I think, to this road, which is the majority fauna that I've kind of placed around our buildings, probably. That and alders. But I know from Farming Simulator days they are not suitable as forestry trees. Oh my goodness. And also they don't produce as much wood. As you can see here, they're again stuck on 2,000, whereas our pines will give us a lovely healthy 3,000 wood when fully grown. And it also means we don't have that kind of dirty border right up to the edge of the road there as well. So we need to do a little bit of covering up on this side, but that's okay. I'm going to come back and fix the trees in just a second. And then I'm thinking with this road, let's actually create a split off here. So that's going to go round into that lumberyard. And then we're going to bring this kind of roughly around this mountainside. So I need to watch out for that. We have got smooth slope on. Yes, we have. Watch out for that percentage. So that was 12.6. I think for a truck to get round, that's probably about as harsh as we can make it. This bit's relatively flat around here. That's going up a little bit. That's okay. And we're just going to kind of loop it around the mountainside so we can actually see the edge of our forestry industries there. So we're probably going to want another one. I think we have one up here and maybe another one down this way. We can have 3 different lumber yards in here to help fulfill some of that demand. So this is coming down quite a bit at this point, but that's not too much of a problem, I don't think. And then we can kind of snake it along the coastline here and bring it out into our main lumberyard this side, like that. So then if we go back, so our border edge is there. Yeah, we could definitely have... In fact, this would actually fill the entire area, wouldn't it? Maybe we don't necessarily need 2 of them. And we could make use of that flat space up there for a factory of some description. So I'm actually going to hold off putting this one in until we've got these factories in the detailing in just a second. So we'll wait for that one and then we can really make the border of it nice around the edges of the factories there. But there's a lot of tidying up to do. I'm wondering if we can even see our building over here, what kind of difference that is making to our production. So we have got all the jobs filled, which is wonderful. And that is already making us 10.4 tons. Oh my goodness. And I definitely wanted to put in this industry afterwards in the hope that we'll get some furniture or some timber factories in along here as well to make use of this. I definitely do also, like I mentioned, want to put the district on this section of road here, so it is gated community essentially. Although I kind of think we'll probably be alright without it because it is not connected to any of the houses. I can't see why anyone would use a small gravel road as a through route. And we could even use traffic actually to reduce the speed of the road, potentially, to divert people away from that. So maybe we leave that for the moment and save putting in another district for that. And we'll keep an eye on usage, and maybe we can add it in at a later date. But I think for now, it is, well, we've got an entire build to do here, really. We need to finish it off. So we want to finish off detailing the retirement village. We want to come in and shape our lumberyard, make this actually look like a lumberyard. Oh my goodness. We actually have resources stacking up already. Perfect. That's all I can say to that. Absolutely perfect. We haven't had companies move in here yet, which is probably why. I think once we get in our second forestry plantation area, whatever you want to call it, and more of our industry down here, maybe that will help. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and detail. So there we go, and it took a long time to get here. I'll explain in just a second, but here we have View Haven Point. Yeah, give me your better name suggestions in the comments below. I was detailing this post-patch and I had a few little issues with some mods that I was using that haven't been updated yet. So for the first time, actually really ever, of me playing Cities Skylines II, I experienced several crashes while detailing that, so I'm sorry if the time-lapse was a little bit jumpy or things don't quite look like how it was in elements of the time-lapse because I had to redo certain bits, but autosave being on 5-minute intervals really saved me there, so a little tip. And no, I don't think that's a game issue, it was a mod issue for me, for those skeptics wandering out there, and that is always the danger when you mod a game, but I love it. So let's start off at the lumber yard over here. So there's still no business actually in this plot that we have here, it's still empty. So I did actually decide to delete out these other two plots and just place in these lumber props, as it were, these log props. And of course the log piles are no longer available, so we had to place these all in with line tools, stacking them all up ourselves, so they're not 100% perfect, but they're not too bad. Added a few bits of forestry machinery dotted around, and then we also have this plank yard over here where the logs have obviously been processed, and what I'm thinking is that this is essentially some kind of sawmill or pulp mill or something to that effect, or something that at least is connected to the forestry industry. So I know it's stone, but we're just going to ignore that for now and pretend it's part of our big lumberyard and our forestry industry at the end here. So the car park worked out pretty nicely with a little wall around it, pretty simple there. And then we come on round to the industry, and I've used lots of decals. Oh, I will mention the sand actually a little bit. So I really couldn't decide on the surface for this plot, so I actually went for the oil surface texture with a bunch of decals over it, and using quite a lot of Sully's wet sand decals to make it almost seem a little bit sawdusty. So that's what I've also done in small patches around here as well, although I'm not sure that that effect necessarily comes through quite how I wanted it. But just to explain, that is why I've added sand patches into our lumber yard over here. And then yeah, we come on down and we've got our little pockets of industry, like this small little warehouse that we have on the corner here. And then we've got a few more over this side, so this larger one, which annoyingly actually, the big industrial decoration keeps disappearing, but if I move one of these decals, yes, there we go, it pops back in. It looks a little bit better. There's quite a few smokestacks around here, so I might trim off a few of those as time goes on, but we'll see how we go. And we've got, yeah, a couple more industrial bits here. I've just sort of tidied up the surfaces at the front a little bit. Added an extra slip road into that, which I thought looked quite nice. This little one on the corner here as well. Got some of them with more of the dirty decals on the roof, but not all of them. So some of them look a little bit more run down, I guess, than others. Quite liking this one up the slope here as well. A little bit of car parking. Again, the same thing happens. The car parks always disappear, so we just have to tweak them with move a little bit and they do come back, but they'll probably disappear next time I load in as well. But yeah, there we go, that's the little pocket of industry. And just before we move on to the other parts as well, so a lot of these are actually not furniture and timber as I expected. So we've got vehicles, pharmaceuticals, we've got electronics over there, minerals, but we do have furniture there, vehicles, furniture here. I think this one, oh no, that's convenience. Grain food, interesting, yeah, okay. Well, we do actually need food, so I'll accept that. And then this one is metal. So we do have 2 more furniture factories in here at least, which isn't too bad. And if I just take a little look at productions before we end the episode today. No, we're still making, oh, that just jumped up to 35,000 an hour, so we have not lost anything. In fact, we've actually gained from the start of the episode in terms of the hourly budget. Gained a lot of money. I mean, we spent $500,000 on trees, but we've actually gained 2 million. I think it was on 5.8 after the manic tree episode. So yeah, we've gone up 2 million since then, and the time it's taken me to detail up some of these areas, which actually wasn't too much this time compared to some others, but there we go. We have got a 21-ton surplus on wood though now, so I don't think we're going to need any more forestry industry for quite some time. And then if we come down here and we take a little look at things like planks and furniture. So furniture, we've got a big surplus because we've got those 2 factories in there now. Unfortunately, we don't have any timber factories at all. Now actually, when I looked at this halfway through the detailing, we did have one and it's obviously disappeared. So these do change all of the time. I don't know why we've suddenly got 2 more vehicle factories when we've already got a massive surplus in that, and then a deficit in other things, which I find a little bit bizarre. Really hoping for some form of mod that means that we can choose the company, or at least the industry and product that they're making in those factories. That would be my absolute dream mod for this game. But yeah, there we go. So we're making enough furniture now, at least, so that's something. That's something for sure. I am thinking with all of this surplus though, with like the minerals coming from ground earth and all of the timber coming from the forestry industry, we really need some better way to export it other than just roads. So I'm thinking a cargo rail terminal should be put in fairly soon. I'm going to save the main cargo port for over in the downtown area, and I'm going to really hope that when Bridges and Ports expansion finally releases that we get some kind of smaller terminal for that we could potentially put somewhere over this side. But for now, it's really rail that we're looking at here. I don't really want a cargo airport around this area, maybe somewhere over here, but a little bit further down the line. But rail, potentially this spot over here that's really underutilised, and basically we just used it to dump a recycling centre in several episodes ago. So we could make something of that there. Let me know where you think we should put a cargo rail terminal in the comments. We'd love to hear your opinions on that. But yeah, just before we sign off, let's have a little look at the retirement village as well. Not a lot has happened here other than some trees, some extra bits of hedge, and just some tidying up of surfaces, so making this entrance look really nice. And I've just realised Fault Studios, yeah, we're not going to have those signs there. Oh, I did put a little post box in for them as well, right outside the main office. Communal area. We've got staff parking around the back as well. And then when we come onto the communal area, this was really where most of the action happened. I did trim back a few of the trees around the houses and changed them so it didn't look like such a heavily repeated pattern. But I wanted to keep all the gardens open and have that community vibe feel. But here, yeah, we do have the community pond in the middle here with 2 little bull fountains and some benches looking out in towards it. And then the main feature actually, well, we extended the paths out of this main parkway, but we do have a bowling green here. Now, I don't know if this is something that happens a huge amount outside of maybe the UK, I don't know. But a lot of retirement villages have bowling greens over here, so I wanted to do something a little bit different with this kind of small space. So we've got this manicured grass area with the lips so the balls don't fly out of it, a few little benches around the edge, and all kind of enclosed with this big hedge border, so it's nice and quiet for the elders' bowling games. There we go, that is Haven Village, and I think it's sat quite nicely in this sort of secluded little space. Like, I know there's big heavy dirty industry the other side of the hill, but you can't really see it and you don't really get that feel from here. It's just these huge heavily forested hills going onto the riverside, so I feel like that's quite nice. We need to be a little bit careful with what we put on the other side, so maybe we keep this as green space as well, and then it really is in this really quiet, secluded location on the outskirts of Few Haven over here. Now, just before we sign off, let's have a little look at that employment statistic. So that is down to 14.2 now with our lumber yards in. Now, I did put 2 of them in. So we've got this little one down here. Oh, we can see the forestry machinery going off into the forest. I love that. So yeah, this has got 42 employees, 112% efficiency. Yeah, everyone's very happy who's employed and working there. And then we've got this little one over here, which I cleared out a little bit. 41 employees, 112% efficiency again. So yeah, not too bad. I think overall generally fairly successful. And we do have actual logs being stored here, which is wonderful. And of course, having that unemployment rate back down to a much more acceptable level. In fact, it's even dropping further. I wonder if our population's dropping, but it's not really. It's remaining pretty steady. Yeah, moved in, moved away is fairly equal. Okay, we're getting a lot more births than we are deaths though, interestingly, so it should be rising. Not rising by much, and I'm pretty sure it was on 24,000 when we started, but yeah, there we go. Now, the other thing to note was education as well, so I did actually open up our other elementary school as part of the Paul Raymond High School complex over here, so that's now fairly well balanced. We have a little bit of extra capacity versus those that are in it. A tiny bit on high school still and quite a lot on college, so we're not doing too bad. And I think actually, considering we're sort of almost done-ish with this main area, at least of Few Haven, I feel like we've kind of got that relatively well balanced. Obviously, when we expand out in this direction, we're going to need to put some more schools in here just to make sure that we keep that nice and balanced. And then I'm wondering, what do we do over this side as well? Do we develop up into the hills or do we move on? Again, would love to hear your thoughts of where you'd like to head on after we finish up this space. But that'll be all for today, so if you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are greatly appreciated. If you're looking for cheaper gaming codes, please do check out Instant Gaming in the description below for really big discounts, which also helps to support the channel. And there's also other ways to support the channel in the description as well if you wish to do so. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you again next time. Bye bye!